Gata, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Sports In. I hope your week has been great. I hope your weekend was even better because most sporting activities happen in and around the country. They happen especially over the weekends. I hope you've gone out there and shown support to your local sporting cons. As for myself, my weekend was very interesting. I got to cover some junior hockey here in the capital. I've seen some great skills shown over the weekend on the hockey turf down at the Sergeant Guys Hockey Pavilion as well. I've also caught up with one of our elite athletes, PNG athletes, who recently debuted at the Pacific Games, Roland Hure. He's a long jumper and he's left for the United States already on a sports scholarship. So those stories coming up later in the show tonight. Let's check what's in the lineup for tonight. All right, so we begin with some AFL. Now, the PNG AFL Muruks, not the Mosquitoes. Mosquitoes is actually the national team, but this is also a representative side. Will be leaving next Wednesday, that's the 28th of this month, for the Asian Cup in Thailand. Now, while its success in the Asian Cup may not be heard by most, this is one of the teams that have raised the PNG flag high in the last 3 years in Division 2 of the competition and have advanced on to Division 1 for this year's meet. We caught up with the team a few days ago while they were in their final training session. While its success in the Asian Cup may not be heard by most, this is one team that has raised the PNG flag high in the last 3 years in international competitions and for this year have advanced on to Division 1 of the Asian Cup. While this is a Papua New Guinea team competing in an international competition, it is not exactly the national team, the Mosquitoes, and its primary focus is its presence in the Asian competitions, which are the Philippines Cup and ultimately the Asian Championship. Now, the player base for this team is a Port Moresby competition where the top lot are put together to take on much more competitive competitions than what they have here at home.
These players, especially, this is the players are just made up of the local compy. But must be senior compy. We've picked a number of best players and we actually put them together to make up this team. So this is just the players in our local compy, Port Moresby.
The Asian competition will be held on Saturday, the 31st August, and the format is 2 by 12 minutes halves with 16 players per side, making it a modified version of the game.
The championships are going to be held in Thailand on the 31st of this month, August, and we're leaving the country on the 28th, which is about the following Wednesday. So yeah, actually the championships will be held on one day tournament. We're playing about 5 to 6 games before the best team gets into the finals. So we actually be looking forward for that. So yeah, we were leaving on the 28th.
It is expected to be a fast and tough competition, and the Muruks, who have won Division 2 last year in Kuala Lumpur, are determined to make this their first Division 1 win.
We've been training since we came back from the Philippines Cup about 4 months back. So we've been training since then till now, and then it's been quite a long time. And the boys have been this bunch of players they've been putting in a lot of effort in preparing for the Asian Champs. So yeah, because like I said, we in Division 1 this year, we actually putting a lot of effort in getting the team ready and then going off for the championships.
Although a win is not something they expect to come easy, as they are now in the same division as the likes of Hong Kong, Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines and Malaysia. And the team is now calling on the general public to support them as they will be representing Papua New Guinea out there. Meanwhile, there are also plans to eventually expand into other international competitions.
Like I said, we've joined the Asian Champs for it's about 3 years now. So the Asian Championships have been running for some years back. So yeah, there are a lot of good teams. We're looking at teams like the Bali Geckos and Philippine Eagles, and those are the best teams in the Asian Champs. Which we had to play those teams in Division 1 because they don't normally play in Division 1. So the competition out there is a bit tough because a lot of people. A lot of players from Australia, the ex-AFL players, former AFL players normally go out and have a couple of countries there to play as well. So it's the competition there is pretty much tough. So we actually looking forward to meet the other teams. Actually, this team is just for the Asian champs only. And then if down the future we were looking at expanding, if there's possibility of us to getting it down to Aussie or something like that. We're looking at working more closely with AFL PNG and because currently we are more close to AFL PNG. We supporting the local comps, and we're getting the boys from the local comp into this club and getting the boys together as a team to go and participate in the Asian Champs. So yeah, we currently we are actually just participating with the Asian Championships only. I'd like to thank especially the sponsors, because the sponsors been very supportive. They've been there for us for the last 3 years. This year we've got a quite good number of sponsors, which they've actually came in good to get the team down. So we actually proud of the boys and then the sponsors as well. So we would like to thank the sponsors, especially for putting a lot of effort in to get this team ready for the championships. And we're going as a PNG team, so we would like to ask the supporters back in here, families and friends to support and get behind us, so that let's get some morale and back up into the team, and let's see what happens out there.
Interesting story there. Now this team, it's actually the selection, the make of the team is from Port Moresby-based competition, the AFL Easy Loan competition here in the capital. And these competition they've been attending for the last 3 years have given them, a much more advanced, much more elite level of play. And they've actually been improving. These boys have gone out there and they've done really well. And congratulations to them. And we wish them all the best in their upcoming tournament. Now, we'll go for a short break now. Coming up next, we featured the long jumper I told you about earlier, Roland Hure, and some junior hockey. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. You're watching Sports Scene. Now to hockey. A junior hockey tournament was hosted over the weekend by Port Moresby Hockey Association, where selectors were also assessing for selection purposes. Now this is due to the massive participation of over 300 junior players in the POM Hockey Comp, and the association for the first time opted to do a juniors comp. The initiative to put together this tournament was a result of a rapid increase in the number of junior players in the last few years, which now brings participation to over 300 junior players. Even during competition on Sunday, it was clear that the level of competition has increased, and there was a number of strong matches throughout the day. MTV arrived at the venue in time to see teams Lapa and Gugone in action. And a strong match it was, as both teams drew 2 flat at full time and had to head into shootouts, where Lapa proved to be the better side with a 4-3 win. And the level of competitiveness continued into the next match, where Peva and Karodia also ended the game in a draw and proceeded to shootouts, where Karodia came out victors. Meanwhile, the senior competitions will be happening this weekend over at the Surgeon Guys Hockey Pavilion, where selection processes will also be carried out. great to see the massive participation in pom hockey, especially now in the near future. We hope that is the similar case for most centres around the country who are participating in hockey as well. I think for Port Moresby, it's mainly because of the hockey turf, the very nice facility they have down at Surgeon Guy Stadium that's, attracted a lot of juniors to also participate and even learn the sport for many of those newcomers. And it's good to see them out there continuing to play the sport. Now, moving on to some athletics, in PNG's elite athletes continue to set the benchmark, and that's getting an education while actively involved in sports. Now, PNG long jumper Roland Hure, who came out of Gordon Secondary just last year, joins these lot as he has already left for the US on Saturday. Hure is a recipient of the Oceania Australia Foundation Scholarship to attend Southwestern Community College in Iowa following an exceptional performance from the 2017 Pacific Mini Games in Vanuatu.
It was after the 2017 Pacific Mini Games. I was identified as one of the potential athletes for the scholarship. I filled one of the applications back in 2018 last year, October. And then, just this year on February, they awarded the scholarship to me.
The 21-year-old who hails from Barakau Central Province is one of the many athletes produced through the PNG Grassroots Games and boasts gold medals from both the last PNG Games and the Mini Games. His most recent appearance was his debut at the recent Pacific Games, where he gave a strong performance but missed out on bronze medal by just 1 centimeter to PNG national record holder Peniel Richard.
It's a dream come true. So I am so excited and nervous at the same time. But I'll do the most of it.
Roland will now join fellow 2017 Mini Games gold medalist Benjamin Aliel, who enrolled last year under the same program.
I was identified back in 2014. 2014 PNG Games, but I actually didn't make the team till 2017. But 2017 PNG Games was one of the best games that I've ever had because I won 3 golds for NCD, which is kind of like a motivational booster and a good lead up for the Pacific Mini Games.
Now, the main aim would be to earn a place in university following this 2-year program.
The first thing is I have to, put my school first. I have to do an academic voices. Secondly, I have to perform on the track, and just to secure another 4-year school.
Now, after completing secondary education at Gordon Secondary School here in the capital just 10 months ago, Roland received an offer to attend Medan Technical College. But the timely scholarship will now give him an opportunity not many Papua New Guinean school leavers can get. And this was his message to young aspiring athletes who are still contemplating the possibilities of taking up sports while still in school.
To be honest, it's really hard to balance sports and school at the same time. But you just gotta work hard. If you have a dream, you just gotta work hard, never give up. As a Christian country, you gotta put God first in everything and anything you do. That's pretty much about it.
We'll go for a break now, and on the other side, we take a look at some background into Oceania Rugby tournament that is starting tomorrow. And 2 members from Oceania Rugby joins us here on set. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. You're watching Sports Scene. Now, Port Moresby will play host to the Oceania Rugby Cup in the next few days, starting this Friday. And because that event is happening here in the capital, we have some representatives from Oceania Rugby in country right now, and they've just joined us on set. I have here Rosa Schutt. She's the communications person for Oceania Rugby, and at the far end, I have Wayne Schuster, that is. Yes, so he's the competition manager for Oceania Rugby. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Oh, pleasure.
Now we begin with Wayne. As the competition manager, you would be in a better position to just give us a brief of the background for Oceania Cup itself.
Sure. So the Oceania Cup, formerly known as the Hure Cup, has been in play since 2007. It's perhaps Oceania Rugby's oldest tournament, so to speak. It was one of the first that was delivered through the Pacific in the early days of the Oceania region. Since then, it's been played biennially throughout, right up until 2017, which was the last time the Oceania Rugby Cup was played. It's been mostly played here in Port Moresby, which was hosted here in 2011, 2013 and 2015, which I had the pleasure of being part of over those last 3 editions. So strategically, it's a very important tournament for us in that it provides a competition pathway for some of our performance and development unions. Now, when I refer to performance development unions, these are our tier 3 nations, i.e. Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, Cook Islands, American Samoa and so forth. We're heading into a period where now we're trying to put as much strategic value in and around this tournament. Bringing it to Port Moresby this year hopefully will serve as a catalyst to further propel some of our tier 3 nations to be on par with some of our other Pacific nations who are up there in tier 2. If I can, the lasting comment from this, from your question in itself, when people perceive Pacific rugby, they only consider Tonga, Samoa and Fiji.
That's right.
There's a bevy of Pacific unions out there, and this is why this tournament is here.
And it's about time that perspective should change, because every other Pacific Islands nations are playing the sport as well.
Oh, absolutely. There's an immense amount of potential here in the Western Pacific, and PNG in particular. We discussed earlier, the attention now is drawn on, people are starting to wonder globally, where is Papua New Guinea through the performances of the sevens, the Palais, and the men's sevens at the World Sevens Series. So, I mean, there's a lot of potential here.
Now, you mentioned it was previously biannual, so maybe from a communication standpoint, what sort of presence did it have before? Were a lot of people up to par with Oceania Rugby tournament? I mean, Oceania Rugby Cup as a tournament itself, or is it because of the gap in the times it's hosted that's affected that presence?
Maybe I'll have Wayne.
Sure.
Because I wasn't in the picture.
Because it came down very much to a funding variable in terms of why we needed to host it biennially. The intention was always to run these annually. As a result of this, not only the gap in playing international rugby every 2 years, there's also funding issues internally with some of these nations, which otherwise have prevented nations from playing as frequent as they should. And this has shown up immensely with recent games against other regional unions such as Hong Kong and so forth, whereas we're finding it hard to compete against some of these unions, and that's due to the fact that we're not having enough competition.
That's right. Now, I think moving on to some of the strategic approaches for going forward for the competition itself and even the sport in this part of the region, what are some plans in place for that? Okay,
so first of all, we're here in this particular tournament basically to give support to Papua New Guinea Rugby Union. And on the back of that, that being our priority for us being on the ground at this time, on the back of that though, we have also a responsibility to come and maybe build further or garner support for the ongoing sustainability of this particular tournament. And Wayne has over the past year looked at areas where we're able to basically look at partnerships, for a sustainability of a tournament wherever it's held in various countries around the Pacific. So for us, that will be a priority too for this particular trip that we've made. So over the next few days, we will be going out there, establishing partnerships, talking to people, networking, and just utilizing our time here, to the best that we're able to. So that's really good. Strategies.
What sort of specific, if you can share with us some specific details of some of the probably programs or activities you'll be involved in?
So with every competition we take around the region, we run a series of, we run actually several competitions within the region at different locations in the Pacific. With every competition we take, we endeavour to undertake a series of training and education programs geared towards upskilling local staff and personnel. We term this as our Impact Beyond program, which is a legacy program that we bring with these competitions. This time round, we've got a sports science, medical conference that's currently in place. We've got some colleagues from World Rugby who've come out from Dublin that are currently here now, undertaking those sessions with local practitioners, just upskilling and teaching them pitch side medical application and treatment. Which is invaluable to some of the sports career-minded medical practitioners here. We've also got some judicial aspects, training and upskilling, and some event match commissioner courses that's currently running. So I mean, it's not only about delivering competitions and so forth. It's important for us as well to build capacity and to upskill.
Yeah, India not only develops the sport further.
Absolutely.
That's right. Now, moving on to probably, if you can sum it up in a nutshell, what would be one thing that you would like to see come out of, this competition happening here moving forward?
I'll let Rosa come with her nutshell, and then I'll come with mine as well.
All right. So, it really is. These competitions give the opportunity to the nations that compete, again, development, their development. And it's bringing that into Moresby, into wherever we're hosting, the competitions are being hosted, taking that to another level on the playing field. And in addition to that, it's about, at the end of the day, it's about sustainability. Sustainability of the sport, sustainability of every element that is related to the sport, that links into the sport, and what Wayne has just alluded to. So it's the long-term perspective, just looking at it long-term. Right. Yeah, so that's really what it is that we'd like to see.
That's great, and yes, we hope to see this tournament being done annually here in Port Moresby or anywhere in PNG in the near future.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. And just adding on what Rosa had mentioned, I mean, it's a belief amongst us all here at Oceania Rugby that sport in itself, whether it be rugby, whether it be rugby league, whether it be netball, transcends gender, transcends
absolutely.
race or religion, and so forth. And bringing rugby here as one sport in itself is a medium of change. And we implement a lot of our social legacy programs. We have a big focus on driving women's rugby within an equal playing field here in the Pacific. So if that's one positive aspect amongst the many other performance and development programs, that's very key for us here.
I like to think that sports is a universal language.
Oh, absolutely.
You can go anywhere as long as you play sports. Yeah. Okay, all right. So moving on to the other events that will be happening in the next few days, we have Nauru and Solomon Islands arriving, who have already arrived. We are seeing which team are we seeing taking the field first against PNG?
Well, the first PNG will be playing up against Nauru, who will be making their international debut, and that's certainly one legacy of this tournament. Is that Nauru now for the first time fielding a 15s team, and they're very excited about it. And, however, they're going to be up against the favourites here at home.
Home advantage.
We also have Niue will be playing Solomon Islands in round one. Niue has been absent from the tournament for the last 8 years, so that's another milestone for this tournament, bringing back these Pacific nations to play. They're very excited as well. So that's round one. It'll be exciting there at PNG Football Stadium. Round two, it's just a rotational from these games, but the third and final round will probably feature the two favoured. I wouldn't say I'm not favouring anyone, but the traditional Solomon Islands versus PNG derby.
So for the benefit of our viewers, the dates are 23rd, that's this Friday. We have 27th and 31st of August. So those are the dates. So if you want to check out the event, you can head over to PNG Football Stadium and check out these internationals that are going to be played there. I think that's all for now. Do you guys have anything else to add?
Yes, if I may, just in addition to what we've shared, just tickets. Tickets. They're being sold at Bryant Bell outlets across Port Moresby. Yes, and also grandstand is going at 10 kina, and the outer stand is going at 5 kina. So we want to encourage you. All listeners, we want to encourage you to show up and support, the 4 nations who are here to play good, clean rugby, and also, most importantly, 3:30 p.m. this Friday, come and support the PNG Pukpuks, your national team, and we hope to see you there in great numbers.
All right, there you have it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy your stay here.
Thank you.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
We'll go for a short few messages, and when we come back, Sports Scene continues. Welcome back to the show. You're watching Sports Scene. Now, we continue our discussions on the Oceania Rugby Cup that's happening starting tomorrow. And Geraldine Calabai, one of our online reporters, joins me on the show tonight to discuss some of those because she has been following their team's arrivals and also down to the training sessions. I think the last training session was late yesterday, very late into the evening. So thank you very much for joining me on the show, Geraldine.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
That's good. Now, I know you've spoken to all the coaches and probably one of the captains. We start with Solomon Islands. You've spoken to the coach, and I believe they have a very young side. Tell us more about that.
So the Solomon Islands rugby team, they arrived yesterday, and I spoke to the coach. They have a very young team coming on with just one player that has international experience. So, yeah, they're ready to take on this competition.
Any mention of where this experienced player is coming from?
He's the captain of Solomon Islands, and he's trained down in Brisbane, and he went up to the Solomon Islands about a couple of weeks ago to join them for the camp, and then they've come down for the competition yesterday.
Now, you've spoken to the coach, so obviously from your observation, you would pick up something. So how does the coach feel about their presence here, and PNG obviously has home ground advantage?
Yeah. See, I'm not a rugby player, but, I was just observing. And I think that he's a bit like, because the team is a new team and they're a developing team. Yeah. And they're happy to give competition to PNG, and they feel like somehow, just like Nauru, they feel like they're the underdogs and they're coming in, so they're hoping to give competition.
Yeah, and the good thing for them is these young players they can name this game as the first international, so that's good experience for them. We'll take a look now at what the coach had to say about his team.
Our team is just as I say, is a development team. We are here to participate. If we have performed well, it's a bonus for us. So we are just here to, it has been, I think 9 or 10 years, we just participated back in 15s. So we have to start from here and onward with the code of 15s. We all know that PNG is always there. As I say, it's a development team, it's a youth or young team. We are prepared for the tournament and the competition. But it's on, we take things by pace, step by step. So we have Niue first and then Nauru before PNG. I hope that our boys will do it, but I believe on them. They are young, but we can make it. In terms of experience, we are not that, but because it's a young team, there's a lot of young, and I think the youngest we have is 18 years old. So that's why we're here to start from here and onward. Hopes or aim for is we want to win in this competition.
All right, so moving on to the captain of the team, the Solomon Islands captain. In fact, you've spoken to him. Anything in particular he said that may be of interest to our viewers?
Yeah, he spoke well for his team, and he's very optimistic about the boys, but somewhat confident as well.
That's good. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
Yeah, the boys have been in camp for about a few weeks now. Everyone's looking really good, and everyone's pretty excited for the next week. just the experience with a lot of the young players, and then there's a mixture of a lot of old players as well. So hopefully to take the experience of this level here and then take it back and go through with the other clubs that they affiliate themselves with. I think just having a new, very young team, and everyone's not familiar yet with everyone, so I guess that's the only thing, just getting to know each other. Yeah, otherwise, yeah, looking pretty good so far.
Interesting stuff. Then we'll go for a short break. When we come back, we hear from the PNG coach and the Nauru coach as well. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. You're watching Sports Scene. Now we continue our discussions from the rugby teams that are in the country right now and ready for the Oceania Rugby Cup that's happening starting tomorrow. Now this time we talk about the Nauru team and of course host PNG team. Geraldine, you were out there, you've met the Nauru team, you've met the coach, you also spoke to him. What did he have to say about his team?
Well, the Nauru coach, because Nauru is it's the first time they're attending these competitions. The last time they played any form of rugby was in an international competition was in 2015 Pacific Games here, and they also sent a women's team out. So he's confident about his team as well. Although they're like new to the competition, he's confident.
I think for most of these islanders, of course, rugby is one of the popular sports they play, and for Nauru, PNG, well, all these teams here, they're from the third tier nations, and this is, you can see, consider it a development phase for them as well to take part in the Oceania Cup. So it would be interesting to see what Nauru has to bring to this competition starting tomorrow.
Yes.
All right, we'll hear from the coach now.
We prepared as well as we could. We had a few barriers to our preparation, but we've come through and we're here and we're ready to compete. This will be our first sort of a tournament for 15-a-side. Our first rugby competition of any kind was here during the Pacific Games. That was our 7th team, and then from there we've progressed through. Last year our first women's 7th team, they attended their first tournament at the Oceania Championship, and now the 15s, this will be their first test match, so to speak. Three test matches during this tournament. Given that this will be our first tournament, I believe we rightfully should be the underdog, so to speak. We are at the beginning of a very long journey, I hope, and hopefully we give enough competition to the other opposing team in a friendly, competitive game, and I hope the public here will support us, given it's our first ever tournament, and we're all keen and excited to play.
All right, moving on to the host for this tournament, PNG. Of course, the PNG Pukpuks will be going out there under the guidance of their coach, Billy Rapila. So it should be an interesting, their presence in the competition should be an interesting one, considering that despite being the experienced one, their preparation time wasn't that long, and we're patriotic, so we'll support them and hope they make it. But in the competition, these other teams are seeing PNG as one of the strongest teams they have to overcome. You've spoken to the coach. I know he's mentioned a few things about the preparational time and what they're hoping to achieve going into this tournament.
Well, I've spoken to other coaches as well, so I can see that the PNG team is more confident and they're ready to go in for this competition, and they have a very good lineup. Billy Rapila, the coach, he's confident with his boys, and they've taken boys from regions to come in to play for, represent the country in this competition.
I hear that because of the short space of time and the notice and the preparational period and trainings was even much shorter, they had to, most of them were from the Port Moresby competitions, and
Yes.
probably four or three from the outside regions. So I hope in the future they give more opportunity to the outside centers as well to vie for a spot in the team. But anyway, let's listen to what the coach had to say.
Yeah, it's been a short preparation, really not ideal, but we've just gone basically for the guys that have played at this level in the past, and also what we saw in the little trials we had, and also taking into account their form during the season as well. So it's a bit of a mix, but we're hoping it's the mix that will do the job for this tournament. And as I said, it's short preparation, but the guys have done their best to try and make do with the challenges we've had in the last couple of weeks. We're quietly confident in the sense that we believe in our what we've seen throughout the season, especially in Moresby. But you never know these things. These people come from different areas. I know the most newer players are all from overseas in Australia and New Zealand, so they bring with them a quality that's obviously higher than what the boys are used to. But we're going to draw on the passion of our local home base crowd, and hopefully we can bring it together on the day.
That was the PNG coach there, Billy Rapila. Geraldine, thank you very much for joining me in the last two segments. I hope you've enjoyed coming on Sports Scene.
Thank you,
This is
Dineros.
actually
I
your first
really
time coming
enjoyed.
on
Yes,
Sports Scene.
this is my first time on Sports Scene talking about sports.
Yeah, right. So thank you very much for bringing us this story and coming on the show as well. We'll go for a short break now, and on the other side, we'll wrap things up here on Sports Scene. Welcome back. You're watching Sports In. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show, but before we go, just a few recap on tonight's stories. We had Roland Hure on the show, we had Oceania Rugby representatives on the show, and we had, interestingly, the AFL Muruks on the show. So those stories, you can view them later on our Facebook page, and also that's a Sports In Facebook page, and also you can view them online as well on the MTV platform. Now, this weekend, a lot of things will be happening in and around the country. We have here in the capital, the Oceania Rugby happening. As you've heard earlier on the show, tonight we have the first game happening on the 23rd. That's tomorrow. We have another one on the 27th and another one on the 31st. So those are dates to keep an eye on for you residents here in the capital. I think apart from that, I will be over at the Hockey Pavilion covering the NCD Seniors Tournament. Now, that's something similar to the Juniors Tournament that happened just last week, and that's where they will also be doing some selections for a number of big events coming up later this year, especially the Championship and also the Oceania qualifiers for Tokyo 2020. I think apart from that, let's take a look at what's coming up this weekend. All right, so I hope you go out there and give support to your local teams or even your competition happening in your own centers. If you're outside of Port Moresby, if you're in Port Moresby, the biggest thing to check out is the Oceania Rugby Cup happening in the next few days. Apart from that, I hope you have a safe weekend, or safe Friday tomorrow, and a safe weekend, of course. I think that's all for now. To be featured on the show, you can send us an email to sports@emtv.com.pg, or you can also message us on Facebook. That's our Sports In page. And if you want to call, you can call the number 312-9200 and ask for myself or one of the sports reporters. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I'm Dineros Raiko. Good night.